shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Ti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschate Shatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So everyone please repeat. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya 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 Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Gana.
Jaya Jaya Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Gana.
Shakti Deha Koreyena Chaitanya Varnana.
Shakti Deha Karayana Chaitanya Varnana.
Jaya Jaya Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Gana.
Jaya Jaya Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Gana.
Shakti Deha Koreyena Chaitanya Varnana.
Shakti Deha Karayana Chaitanya Varnana.
So today especially I pray for everyone's blessings and good wishes. Very, very hectic day, and I've chanted only one round. So I'm really not feeling so in the right state to deliver this session, but I beg for forgiveness and your blessings so that I can speak something meaningful. And then, as I said, I have something important to do. That's what I have. After the session, I want to leave early and go and, at least complete my minimum rounds. So we are towards the end now of chapter 2 of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, and this chapter has a very interesting heading, as we've discussed many times. Lord Chaitanya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are used to listening that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so what is the intent of this chapter? What does he say in the beginning? Do you remember? Today we'll do a 5-minute recap and then we will move on. So what proposition does he make in the beginning of this chapter? The third Mangala Charan. Okay, good, they are the same. So what about them? How does he describe Lord Chaitanya? What is the title of the chapter? Yeah, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so, what's special about him?
He has 6 opulences.
Yes, he's full in the 6 opulences and?
Brahman, the source of Brahman.
Yeah, so he is the source of the Brahman and he is the source of the Paramatma. And he is the ultimate truth. Okay. This is the assertion that Kaviraj Goswami makes in the third Mangala Charan. So it's the third Mangala Charan of the first chapter, and it is the fifth verse in this chapter. So every chapter he explains one or two Mangala Charans. So in 7 chapters he explains how many? 14. Okay. And in this chapter he explains only one. So we are now right towards the end of this chapter. And what has he done? What has he demonstrated so far in this chapter?
It is established that Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of God.
Okay, and how will he do that? He has to do 3 things. There are 3 arguments he has to fulfill or satisfy us with 3 arguments.
Bhagwan is source of
Okay, that's one.
And
But before that,
is he has to establish Bhagwan Param Tattva.
yes, that Bhagwan is the source of,
Here to Brahman and Paramatma.
yes. So Bhagavan is the source of Paramatma and Brahman. Right? And then second, Krishna is Bhagavan. And third,
And Mahaprabhu is not
yes, and Mahaprabhu is not different from Krishna. So if he's able to do that, then he can hold his proposition. And he has done that. So far, what has he done? He's shown how Bhagwan is the source of Paramatma and Brahman, right? By quoting from the Brahma Samhita, by quoting from the Bhagavatam, by quoting from the Gita, many different scriptures. And then he has also quoted, Brahmaji from in the Bhagavatam, where he says that you are the ultimate Narayan. So Brahmaji comes from whose navel? Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Okay. And so he's saying that, and what is the meaning of Narayan? When we say Narayan for Garbhodakshai Vishnu, what does it mean? Nar, iron. Right? Nara means water, iron who's resting. Right? So Garbhodakshai Vishnu is resting in the ocean. And from his navel comes lotus flower, and on top of that Brahmaji appears. Yes? And so when Brahmaji he's addressing Krishna, he's telling him that you are the ultimate Narayan. It's not that Vishnu is ultimately my source, but you are the ultimate source. So you are my ultimate father. Are you not? He's saying that, expressing his appreciation from Krishna. And then he gives why he is the source. So he gives 3 reasons. What are the 3 reasons he gives? That why is Krishna the ultimate source?
You are the refuge of all the living.
Yeah, so first reason is that you are the source and the shelter of everyone, including the Purusha avatars. Okay. Second,
You are the knower.
huh?
You are the source and ultimately everyone is born.
So you're the source.
You
Everything comes from you. So you are the super Atma. And the second?
You are the knower of past, present, and future.
Okay, that's third.
You oversee all the living beings.
Yeah, that's third.
He is a protector of
Yeah, he is the protector and maintainer. Okay, that's the second. And the third reason he gives is that he is the overseer of all, of all the activities of all the living beings. Okay. And in the last session, what did we do? He gave another argument, right, to support that it is not that Krishna comes from Vishnu or Krishna comes from Narayan, but it's the other way around. And which logic does he apply? Which principle does he apply? Subject and predicate. Right? That the predicate follows the subject. And then he quotes this famous verse from the Bhagavatam. Do you remember? Ete chamsa kala pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So ete, cha, amsa and kala. Right? So cha means and ete means these incarnations. So after describing all the many of the primary incarnations in the 3rd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, then he quotes this verse. So he uses this logic. He says that when he was explaining these incarnations, Krishna was counted within the incarnations, as if that he is one of them. And it was not clear that who is the source of all these incarnations. So therefore, after sharing and a description of these incarnations, he quotes this verse, Sutta Goswami. He says, Kaviraj Goswami says that Sutta Goswami actually became apprehensive, that he is sharing all these incarnations, but it's not clear who is the source of all these incarnations. So then he quotes this verse, Ete chamsa kala pumsa, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So ete means this incarnations. So these incarnations are what? They are the subject. Okay, in that line. And then what follows? The predicate. Who are they? They are the amsa and kala. Of whom? Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam. Right. Pumsa, yes, of the Purusha avatars. And then he says Krishna, in the second line he says Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam. Okay. That Krishna is the subject, and what's the predicate? What's describing Krishna? Bhagavan Swayam. That he is the Vishnu Paratattva. Within the Vishnu category, he is the Supreme Personality. So he said earlier in the chapter, Swayam Bhagavan Krishna Vishnu Paratattva Purna Jnana Purnananda Parama Mahatva. So this is in the beginning of the chapter. He says this. That Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, Vishnu Paratattva. Bhagavan, what's another synonym for Bhagavan? Vishnu Paratattva. Bhagavan means the topmost personality in the Vishnu Tattva. And he's full of knowledge, Purna Ananda, Purna Jnana. And so he's full of knowledge, he's full of bliss. He's Parama Mahatva. He's the topmost truth, the supreme truth. Such a beautiful verse. So this is what we've covered so far. Okay. These are all the arguments that he makes. First, that Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. He is the source of Paramatma and Brahman. And in the Vishnu category, he is supreme. Okay. By showing that, demonstrating how Brahma addresses Krishna as the topmost or the ultimate Narayan, and also then quoting from this section of the Bhagavatam where all the incarnations are listed, and after listing all the incarnations, Sutta Goswami says, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Okay. So that was this is all what we discussed from verses 1 to 90. Okay? 1 to 89. Sorry. So we'll start with verse 90. So it says, Krishna is the cause of all causes and all incarnations. This is what he said so far. So he's saying, now please hear another verse. Ara eka shloka shuno. So he's saying that I'm going to tell you another verse that defeats all misinterpretations. He's going to quote again, like a transcendental lawyer, he's going to quote again from Srimad Bhagavatam to demonstrate that there is no doubt that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in verses 91 and 92, Right? These two verses are from the Srimad Bhagavatam, second chapter, 2nd canto, 10th chapter, verses 1 and 2. And in this, the 10 subjects of the Bhagavatam are listed. So we're not going to go into detail of each of these subject matters because it'll take many sessions to go through the details. So we will, just as Prabhupada has done, he has given a summary explanation in the purport. So we will just go through those. Okay. So Prabhupada says in the purport that these verses from Srimad Bhagavatam list the 10 subject matters dealt in the text of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So all the 12 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, what do they deal with? They deal with these 10 subjects. Just like in the Gita. What is the Gita? How many subjects are in the Gita? 5. Huh? Yes, 5. Do you remember any of them? Yes. Yes. And Bhagavatam expands a little further. Right? It adds a few more categories to give more detail. Like creation, it gives 2 explanations of creation. One is primary creation, then the secondary creation from Lord Brahma. So that way it goes into a little more, not a little more, a lot more depth. So there's 700 verses in the Gita, and there are 18,000 verses in the Bhagavatam. So the subject matter is vast. So 10 primary subject matters of the Bhagavatam listed. Now, of these, the 10th is the substance. Okay? And the other 9 categories are derived from the substance. So they're derivatives of what? Of the 10th subject matter. Now let's see who's the 10th subject matter. The 10th subject matter is who? Krishna. And he is called Ashraya. And all the other categories, 9 categories, they are called Ashrita. Okay. And Prabhupada explains at the, towards the end of the purport, number 10, if you look, Ashraya, the transcendence, the summum bonum from which everything emanates, upon whom everything rests, and in whom everything merges after annihilation. He is the source and support of all. The Ashraya is also called the Supreme Brahman, as in the Vedanta Sutra, Atato Brahma Jigyasa, Janma Adi Yasya Yataha. Srimad Bhagavatam specially describes the Supreme Brahman as the Ashraya. Sri Krishna is this Ashraya, and therefore the greatest necessity of life is to study the science of Krishna. Yeah. So we all convinced of that? Or we are trying to become more and more convinced. We're trying to gain this conviction that this is the supreme necessity of life, to study the science of Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada says that all the other 9 categories, they are derived from this one substance, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what are these 9 categories? So, number 1, Sarga. This is the first creation by Lord Vishnu. Okay, that the bringing forth of the 5 gross elements, the 5 objects of sense perception, the 10 senses, the mind, the intelligence, the false ego, and total material energy or universal form. Okay. So this is the first category, or the first subject. The second is Visarga. this is a secondary creation, the work done by Lord Brahma. Right? All the living entities, they emanate from him. So he says, in producing the moving and unmoving bodies of the universe. Third is sthana, the maintenance of the universe by the personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Fourth is poshana. This is the special care and protection for devotees by the Lord. So Prabhupada writes that the protection of God is for everyone. It is not that God is partial. But the devotees who depend on the Lord completely, the Lord personally gives them shelter. And Prabhupada gives the example of the king. He says, just like the king, he takes care of his subjects. But for his children, he's a little more affectionate. And that's natural. He says that's not unnatural. It's not that the king is biased. King is providing for his praja, including the animals, and supposed to protect everyone. But there is special protection given for the children. Similarly, Krishna, he gives special protection for his devotees. And we see in the Bhagavatam, this is a recurring theme in the Bhagavatam, that how Krishna protects his devotees and how Krishna reciprocates with the devotees' faith, right from the beginning of the Bhagavatam. Like how Vyasadeva, he was unsatisfied after compiling all the Vedic literature. Can you imagine? And he was still dissatisfied. All the Vedic literature is created, written, contemplated, yet there is dissatisfaction. So, I'd like to welcome Vichitra Prabhu, Vichitra Achyuta Prabhu and his good wife, Hare Krishna. Welcome, Prabhuji, Mataji. So we see right from the beginning that how Krishna reciprocates. When Vyasadeva is dissatisfied, what does he do? What does he do? No, he sends whom?
Narad.
He sends Narad Muni to give him a solution. Then Narad Muni, what happens to him? He loses his mother at such a young age. Despite, he being so humble and serving the Bhakti Vedantas, and by hearing them and by accepting his remnants, and he loses his mother. And how does the Lord protect him? How does the Lord protect him? He gives him inspiration. He gets so inspired, he says, okay, Krishna, you are merciful. You've taken you have taken away my only attachment. Now I'm becoming fully dependent on you. What could be better than this? Just imagine the realization of Narad Muni. The Krishna is reciprocating. Krishna's, he's protecting. We see Prahlad Maharaj, we see Maharaj Parikshit, how the Pandavas. So in the Bhagavatam, this theme is constant, that Krishna protects. And his protection doesn't always happen according to our plan and the way we want to be protected. Sometimes Krishna protects us by, we discussed this in one of the purports, that Krishna protects us by smashing all our material taking away all our material assets, abilities, and leaving us completely in a helpless situation. And when a devotee is in a helpless situation, If they are sincere, what will they do? What will they do?
Take shelter.
They take complete shelter. Because there is no other shelter. And when they take complete shelter, then have they lost anything? They've gained everything. But sometimes this is difficult. It's not always, it's easy for me to speak this, but in actuality, when Krishna, people, like there's this bhajan where Prabhupada says, make me dance. We can't imitate that bhajan. If Krishna starts making us dance, we may not be, Krishna conscious anymore. We may take some other shelter. A pure Bhagavat devotee, they can make that prayer. Because they're fully surrendered. We see in Prabhupada's life, he was completely surrendered. And, all these bhajans, they're outpourings from his heart. We can't imitate that. And now I'm yours, now you make me dance, I'm a puppet in your hands. We can only pray to Srila Prabhupada that maybe one day in our devotional lives we can feel a drop of that. So subject number 5, Uti, the urge for creation or the initiative power that is the cause of all inventions according to the necessities of time, space and subjects. So in Bhagavatam there's a lot of description of different levels of creation. So when we are fully Krishna conscious, even within this material body, what does that do? It liberates, where the soul is in a liberated situation, even within this material body. And we see in the lives of great devotees, despite so many bodily discomforts and challenges and inconveniences, their consciousness just is beaming all the time, and fully attached to the Lord's lotus feet. They're not affected by the material energy. Even the body is giving them so many difficulties, but their consciousness is fixed on Krishna, and they are liberated even within this material body. I'd just like to conclude this purport. Prabhupada says 2 different principles are to be considered herein, namely ashraya, the object providing shelter, and ashrita, the dependents requiring shelter. The ashrita exists under the original principle, the ashraya. The first 9 categories described in the first 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, from creation to liberation, including the Purusha avatars, the incarnations, the marginal energy, all living entities, and the external energy or material world, are all ashrita. The prayers of Srimad Bhagavatam, however, aim for the ashraya tattva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. The great souls expert in describing Srimad Bhagavatam have very diligently delineated the other 9 categories, sometimes by direct narrations and sometimes by indirect narrations such as stories. The real purpose of doing this is to know perfectly the absolute transcendence, Sri Krishna, for the entire creation, both material and spiritual, rests on the body of Sri Krishna. You see how wonderful that all these references that Kaviraj Goswami is making, all based on Shastra, and giving such beautiful explanation and references to establish Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of the Brahman and the Paramatma. So let us sing or recite this verse together, number 94. Krishna eki sarvashraya, Krishna sarvadhama. Krishnera sharira sarva vishvare vishrama. Krishna ka sarvashraya, Krishna sarvadhama. Krishnera sharira sarva vishvara vishrama. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, is the shelter and abode of everything. He is the Sarva Ashraya and He is the Sarva Dham. And He is the abode and the shelter of everything. And in His body rest all the universes. Krishnera Sharire. Right? So in His body rests all the universes. And the next is a quotation from Sridhar Swami. Right? And he's saying that the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam reveals the 10th object, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the shelter of all surrendered souls. He is known as Sri Krishna and He is the ultimate source of all the universes. Let me offer my obeisances unto Him. So beautiful Bengali verse, and then supported by another Sanskrit verse by Sridhar Swami. Experience through their realizations, then it draws us closer. Right? When we hear about experiences of faithful devotees, what does it do? It gives us conviction, yes, that Krishna will also protect me. See how this devotee gave his life, and see how Krishna protected him or her. So why don't I also give a try? And is it possible to know Krishna completely? Is it possible? How many of you say yes? Good. Everyone has the right answer. Because Krishna, Jiva Goswami explains in this purport, and Prabhupada explains in much detail. He says that Krishna has many potencies which act in natural sequences but beyond the scope of speculative human mind. The supreme transcendence, the summum bonum, eternally and simultaneously exists in 4 transcendental features. So, how do we, it's so difficult for us to understand Krishna's potencies. To understand the Lord completely is not possible. Because why? The Lord's potencies are achinta. That means they are inconceivable. For the Lord to be the Supreme Lord, He has to have inconceivable power. So, if we think, okay, we will figure it out with our minds, it's not possible. And many times, many things will happen in our lives which will not make sense. You try to logic it out, it's not going to work. So one of the key principles that has helped me, right, is this principle, achinta, to sustain our devotional service. Because sometimes you'll try and do the right things, you'll not get any result. In fact, you may be thrown a few steps backward. And it will not make sense. Then you'll see around, people who are maybe doing wrong things, they seem to be having a good time. Everything's going good for them. Then our mind will trick us. And sometimes what we see that even some of the actions of, say, great devotees, very difficult to understand. Sometimes maybe how they leave their body, that may be also perplexing for us. So many things inconceivable happen. So there we have to make a leap of faith. Because we will not be able to understand Krishna and everything that's going on in this world completely. It's just not possible. But that does that mean we become completely blind? That we keep, we stop trying and we say, okay, just... Yes, if we have that faith, if we have that complete faith, then we are done. Right? But until then, we're not blind followers. This is why we study. There are symptoms of people making progress in spiritual life, spiritually evolved people, descriptions of a guru, qualifications of a disciple, qualifications of the avatar, symptoms of the Lord. These are all explained. So that no one tricks us that, okay, this, like Prabhupada would say, that what is this Narayan? Like sometimes Narayan used for the ones who are little Daridra Narayan. So everyone is Narayan. Yes, Narayan is there in everyone's hearts. And Krishna is there in everyone's hearts. But not everyone is Krishna. Not everyone is Narayan. So we understand Narayan's potencies when we hear about his creative potencies, how he's maintaining the Vaikuntha planets. So this is a very important principle that Prabhupada writes so beautifully. He says, in the middle of the purport, he says, in an honest search for truth, we must admit that his powers are inconceivable to our tiny brains. The exploration of space has demanded the work of the greatest scientists of the world, yet there are countless problems regarding even fundamental knowledge of the material creation that bewilder scientists who confront them. Such material knowledge is far removed from the spiritual nature, and therefore the acts and the arrangements of the absolute truth are beyond all doubts inconceivable. Okay. Then Kaviraj Goswami explains that the personality of Godhead enjoys himself in 6 primary expansions. We will not discuss these here today because they are discussed later in great detail. Okay. And it's explained as incarnations of 2 kinds, namely partial and empowered. And he appears in 2 ages, childhood and boyhood. But the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna in 99, who's eternally an adolescent, is the primeval Lord, the source of all incarnations. He expands himself in these 6 categories of forms to establish his supremacy throughout his universe, throughout the universe. So there are the 6 categories, they explained in the purport of verse 100. It says the 6 different features, Prabhav, Vaibhav, empowered incarnations, partial incarnations, childhood and boyhood. The personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, whose permanent feature is adolescence, enjoys his transcendental proclivities by performing pastimes in these 6 forms. In these 6 features, there are unlimited divisions of the personality of Godhead. The jivas of the living beings are differentiated parts and parcels of the Lord. They are all diversities of the One without a second, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then in the next few verses, he explains that Krishna has internal Shakti, the Chit Shakti, which is called the Swarup Shakti or Antaranga Shakti. Right? And this sustains the kingdom of God. So the spiritual world is sustained by the Chit Shakti or the Antaranga Shakti, right? Internal potency. And the external potency, called the Maya Shakti, right, is the cause of innumerable universes and varied material potencies. So what's he doing here? He's giving more information about the Supreme Lord. That why he is the Ashraya and what are some of his prominent features. And he says that what are the 3 main energies of Krishna? Yes. So then he explains the last one. The marginal energy, which is between these 2, consists of numberless living beings. These are 3 principal energies which have unlimited categories and subdivisions. There's a very beautiful verse that's quoted from the Svetashvatara Upanishad 6.8. There's a very, very beautiful word. He says, Na tasya karyam karanam cha vidyate, na tas samacha abhidhascha drishyate, parasha shakti vivadhaiva shruyate, swabhavika jnana bala kriyacha. So Krishna has no reason to work. Na tasya karyam. He has no reason to work. And he has unlimited potencies. Parasha Shakti Vivadaiva Shuyate. And there is no one equal to him. Na tat samachcha. So there's no one equal to him. These are beautiful verses from the scriptures. And all these energies and all these principal incarnations, they are all emanating from Krishna. We read in verse 104. Ei mata swarup gana aratina shakti, Shvabarashraya Krishna Krishna Shvabarastiti. So Krishna Shvabarastiti. Right? They all have, so we all have, right? All of creation, all the incarnations, all the material universes, the spiritual planets, they all have their existence in the Supreme Lord. Right? And now he's concluding this chapter. Okay. So in verse number 105, he says, although the 3 Purushas are the shelters of the universes, again he's saying Lord Krishna is the original source of all the Purushas. Shai Purush Adi Shobhara Krishna Moola Ashraya. So all the Purushadi, all the Purusha avatars, Shobhara, all theirs, who's the Mool Ashraya? Krishna is the Mool Ashraya. And now And we will recite this verse together. Swayam Bhagavan Krishna Krishna Sarvashraya Parama Ishvara Krishna Sarvashastrakaya Swayam Bhagavan Krishna Krishna Sarvashraya Parama Ishvara Krishna Sarvashastrakaya So Swayam Bhagavan Krishna. Again, re-emphasizing that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Sarvashraya, He is the ultimate shelter, and He is the Parama Ishvara. He is the Supreme Truth. He is the Supreme Lord. And whose declaration is this? Sarva Shastrakaya. And to support this, he's going to quote this famous verse from the Brahma Samhita. Right? Ishvara let us all recite together. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. What a beautiful verse. Krishna, who's known as Govinda, he's the supreme controller. He has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, for He is the prime cause of all causes. Now he does something really sweet in the next few verses. So he's telling his readers, you know all the conclusions of scriptures very well. Right? You just create these logical arguments to agitate me. Prabhupada writes in the purport, he says, a learned man who has thoroughly studied the scriptures cannot hesitate to accept Sri Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If such a man argues about this matter, certainly he must be doing so to agitate the minds of his opponents. Shri Krishna Avatari Vrajendra Kumara Apane Chaitanya Rupe Koilo Avatar Now he is coming back and re-establishing what he has asserted in the beginning of the chapter. So he's saying that same Krishna has descended personally as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Apane Chaitanya Rupe. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's form is Krishna's form. He's not, he is directly Krishna. He has personally descended as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now listen to this. He says, therefore Lord Chaitanya is the supreme absolute truth. To call him Shirodakshai Vishnu does not add to his glory. Now, if you call the supreme absolute truth, Shirodakshai Vishnu, does it add to his glory? If you say, okay, he's a Paramatma, it's okay. Yes, he's the Paramatma, but he's also something more. He's the source of the Paramatma. He's the source, he's the ultimate source of Shirodakshai Vishnu. But then he says, okay, if you even call him Shirodakshai Vishnu, so such words from the lips of a sincere devotee cannot be false. All possibilities are in him. So even if you call him Shirodakshaya Vishnu, that's also correct. For he is the primeval Lord. So he says, even if you call him that, if you call him the Paramatma, so okay. That's also correct. Why? Because all other incarnations are situated in the potential form, in the original body of the primeval Lord. Thus, according to one's opinion, one may address him as one of the incarnations. Why? Because all the incarnations rest within his body. So even if you call him, Rama, so is that correct? Definitely correct. You call him Narsingadev, correct? Yes.
They are correct, but they are incomplete. Can you say?
Yes and no.
Like our Guru Maharaj, we can say, my Guru Maharaj is Dikshit. This is true, but not fulfilling.
हाँ, दीक्षित.
जैसे हमारे गुरु महाराज की हम बात करते हैं, गुरु महाराज है, हम कहेंगे हमारे गुरु महाराज दीक्षित है, तो सही है, लेकिन वो बहुत छोटा है, उससे बहुत बियॉन्ड.
अच्छा, वो दीक्षित है, मैं समझा नहीं.
मतलब दीक्षा, इनको दीक्षा मिल गई है.
गुरु महाराज को दीक्षा मिल गई.
एक एग्जांपल दे सकते हैं कि जैसे हमारे गुरु महाराज हैं,
हाँ.
और हम उनकी ग्लोरिफिकेशन में कहें कि उनको दीक्षा मिल चुकी है, तो ये तो बहुत छोटा दीक्षा. हाँ सही है, दीक्षा तो मिली हुई है, लेकिन बहुत छोटा है.
Yes. That's also a way to understand it. That yes, you say he's a sincere disciple. Okay? He's a sincere disciple. But it depends, because when you say when one is a sincere disciple, that's the biggest glorification you can get. That's complete. हाँ, वैसे आप सोच सकते हैं. Yes. Yes. But we shouldn't minimize the incarnation. Yeah, they're full of the potency. So they're just manifesting a certain limited amount of potency. Okay. But Krishna manifests all the 64 qualities in full. Okay. Now he says, some say Lord Krishna is directly Nara Narayan. Others say that he is directly Vaman. Some say Krishna is the incarnation of Shirodakshaya Vishnu. None of these statements is impossible. Each is as correct as the other, because they are non-different. Okay. Some call him Hari, or the Narayan of the transcendental world. Everything is possible for Krishna, for he is the primeval Lord. So even though after arguing all these arguments he's given, that why Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he says at the end that even if you address him as Narayan, it's okay. Because Narayan is within his body. All the incarnations, all the expansions, they're all within the body of Krishna. So is that incorrect? Suppose you address Krishna as Narayan. Narayan is within whom?
It's not about correct or incorrect, it is not complete.
Yes, so he's saying that, okay, even if you call him, it's not that it is incorrect. Okay, that's what he's saying. Because ultimately they are resting within Krishna's body. Krishna is a shelter. And he's manifesting these forms, these incarnations, for different purposes. All these incarnations, they have a purpose. So are you getting confused, or are you becoming more clear?
If we call, he's saying we can call these incarnations
Krishna, it is not incorrect. The other way around, if somebody says Narsingh Bhagwan is Krishna,
Yes and no. He's Krishna because he's coming from Krishna, right? But yes, they're same and different. The Lord is manifesting in different forms. Right? So they're the one, like the examples given, like one lamp, from one lamp all the other lamps are lit. So to differentiate them or to say, this is lower, that is not correct. Okay? To see them as inferior, that is not correct. Okay? But yes, Krishna is special.
Like in our regular Hindu temples, if you see Lord Krishna and idols, Devi Devatar, both like they are considered as equal, right? Lord Krishna, Ganeshji and Hanumanji, and they're like saying, and everyone says Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, and Vishnu being the topmost, and then Devi Devatar, their concept and methodology. But obviously after the scriptures, this is very clear. But why, how that concept came in, like to those all temples that here Hindus are thinking about. That's why I've been grown up like that.
So that's the effect of time and the influence of Kali Yuga, right? So more and more unclarity. So, but basically within the Vishnu Tattva, if you call, like what he's saying is that, yes, there's differentiation, but there's also oneness. So this is inconceivable. There's differentiation, yet there is oneness.
which is like we also say like we are also like same and one with Lord, like same in quality, but quantity में difference है. तो यहाँ पे भी तो more or less.
Yeah, but here the difference is that Vishnu Tattva, they're in a different category. They're in the Godhead category. We are in the Jiva category. So we are not, yes, we also simultaneously one and non-different, but in a very minute level. And we have a tendency to come under the influence of Maya. But Vishnu Tattva is beyond Maya. Okay, so there's a big difference. But yet we are tiny sparks of the Vishnu Tattva.
So we must respect Vishnu Tattva.
Oh, definitely.
And we should not compare actually. We should accept them as it is.
Yes, but but we should also be clear.
And we
Yes.
must be knowing that Krishna is ultimate.
Yes.
When we say, like last time you mentioned that we as a Jeev Tattva we can manifest 78% of. So is it all depends upon the percentage of like the number of qualities that person can I would say Jiva, or if a Jiva can exhibit 84%, that becomes Shiva Tattva?
No.
No? It's a different Tattva.
Yes.
So Jiva Tattva cannot become Shiva Tattva or,
No.
or cannot
So
become.
Prabhupada writes in one purport that when we have attained our 78% potential, we can go back home to Godhead. It's not that now, now I'll become 93% and I'll become Mahavishnu. Huh? No, it's not like that.
78 से तो ऊपर हो ही नहीं पाएगा.
78 is the maximum, right?
वही तो है. So he was asking that question. हाँ?
बहुत एक एग्जांपल्स मुझे समझ में आ रहा है, बट मैं समझाना थोड़ा. लाइक अभी प्रभु जी है तो हम ये कहेंगे जैसे यहाँ सबका ग्लोरिफिकेशन करते हैं प्रभु जी कि वो आए, वो ऐसे हैं, अभी इनका परिचय दिया, तो ऐसे हम कह सकते हैं हाँ हमारी क्लास में प्रभु जी भी आते हैं, तो लाइक आते हैं, गलत तो नहीं, आप तो आते हो एवरी क्लास में, लेकिन सिर्फ आते हैं ये कह देना आपके लिए ठीक नहीं है, आप ही ले रहे हो क्लास, तो ये हाफ है कि आप आते हो। तो ऐसे ही कि ये वाला बता दें कि वो विष्णु है या हाफ।
So currently when we are in the conditioned state, so we are exhibiting way less than 78.
Yeah, way less, yes.
Maybe 7.8.
Maybe 7. Maybe
Last time when you asked me, I said I don't know the number. Someone asked the question, where are you in? I said that's Krishna's mathematics, not mine. We have to just try and follow the instructions of the scriptures and given to us by our spiritual master and our senior devotees, realized souls, and we just keep trying and trying. And now are we 50% or 58, 60 or 5?
प्रभु जी, जैसे लॉर्ड राम इज अवतार ऑफ विष्णु तत्व, राइट?
Yes.
तो महामंत्र में भगवान का नाम है, कृष्णा का, एंड लॉर्ड राम का भी है, तो और भी विष्णु अवतार्स हैं, तो इज देयर एनी स्पेसिफिक रीजन कि ओनली लॉर्ड राम का महामंत्र में आया और ये इस तरीके से कंपोज हुआ है? इज देयर एनी लॉजिक बिहाइंड दिस और इट इज जस्ट लाइक दैट?
So Rama has many different levels of meaning. So one meaning of Rama is the reservoir of all pleasure. Another meaning is Balaram. Another meaning is Lord Ram. So all these three possibilities exist within this.
Sure.
Some people would say Radha Madhav Ram.
Ramanti. Right. Okay, now we'll discuss one just to conclude, let us, he says, see, this is the mood of Kaviraj Goswami. He says, I offer my humble obeisance unto the feet of all who hear or read this discourse. So after giving this whole detailed description with so many different references from so many different scriptures, and giving so much clarity, and even after giving so much clarity, he goes even further, says, okay, even if you call him this, that's not wrong. After establishing Krishna as the fountainhead of all incarnations and the source of all the material and spiritual worlds and everything, right? He says even within the Vishnu Tattva category, if you call him, it doesn't add to his glory, but it's not wrong. I hope you got this point. It doesn't add to his glory, but it's not wrong. Now this is a very important verse. This is a question I asked you, that why we should study this. So let us read this beautiful verse, text number 117. Siddhanta boliye chitte na koro alasa. Siddhanta boliye chitte na koro alasa. Iha hoite Krishna lage sudridha manasa. Siddhanta boliye chitte na koro alasa. Iha hoite Krishna lage sudridha manasa. This is very important for all of us. He says, a sincere student should not neglect the discussion of such conclusions, considering them controversial. For such discussions strengthen the mind. Thus one's mind becomes attached to Sri Krishna. So, Siddhanta boliye chitte na koro alasa. That means don't be lazy in understanding the conclusions of Siddhanta. Don't think they're controversial. But this is to strengthen our mind so that iha hoite, if you do this, then Krishna lage. Towards Krishna, sudhrida manasa. The mind becomes, attached in great faith. So anytime you have doubt, am I overdoing it? Refer to this verse. But yes, we can overdo it if we don't do any seva, if we don't respect the devotees. Just like study, sit in the corner with the Bhagavatam. Then the Bhagavatam has not come alive for us. Because if we are truly studying the Bhagavatam, then we want to serve. We like to serve the devotees. Serve the mission of our founder Acharya. So Prabhupada says that there are many students who, in spite of reading the Bhagavad Gita, misunderstand Krishna because of imperfect knowledge and conclude him to be an ordinary historical personality. This one must not do. One should be particularly careful to understand the truth about Krishna. If because of laziness one does not come to know Krishna conclusively, one will be misguided about the cult of devotion, like those who declare themselves advanced devotees and imitate the transcendental symptoms sometimes observed in liberated souls. And then Prabhupada says, later on in the purport, he says, unless one hears about Sri Krishna from authorities, one cannot make advancement in devotion to Sri Krishna. And he says the seed of devotion cannot sprout unless watered by the process of hearing and chanting. One should submissively receive the transcendental messages from spiritually advanced sources and chant the very same messages for one's own benefit as well as the benefit of one's audience. And later on in the purport, Prabhupada says that if we really want to create change in our heart, right, if we really want to become purified, Prabhupada says conclusive discussion about Sri Krishna and his potencies is absolutely necessary. So we all want change in our hearts. Yes. So then we have to listen attentively to all these conclusions. Siddhanta boliye chitte, na koro alasa. Don't be lazy. And Prabhupada warns us that don't be false devotees and don't be imitators, who shed tears by practice but whose hearts have not changed. Sahajya mentality. And then he says, by such conclusive studies, this is how I know the glories of Lord Chaitanya. Only by knowing these glories can one become strong and fixed in attachment to him. Okay, now I have a question. So what were the three arguments that he had to make to support his proposition? What were the three arguments that we discussed right in the beginning of the...
Bhagavan is the source of Paramatma and the Brahman.
Yes.
Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead.
Okay.
Mahaprabhu is Krishna and different than Krishna.
And has he established all three in this chapter? How many of you think he has? So has he given enough arguments for all three? You're convinced? All of you?
One and two, yes. Third, yes.
Good observation. Has he given references that, he has stated that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself. But has he given more references for that? Just the way he has made these other two arguments, has he made that third argument in detail? Has he made it?
He has given the references in one of the verse. In the purport, we
No, in the purport Prabhupada is given.
Prabhupada is given.
But has he given?
No, he is not given.
Has he given?
No.
Any shlokas you can find in this chapter? No. So, is it all over?
Something has started.
Is his proposition complete? Like, are his arguments for his proposition complete? Complete? Huh? No, the third one.
Third one is yet to come.
Now the third one will be explained in the next two chapters. And how will he do that? He will explain the reasons why Krishna descends in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when he discusses those 6 reasons, then there will be no doubt that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. Are you able to see the connection? So he's going to go into great detail to explain the next 3 verses that are related to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Mangala Charan. So far he has covered the first 3. Now the next 3 he has to cover, and he will cover 1 in chapter 3 and 2 in chapter 4. So chapter 3 is the external reasons for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance, and chapter 4 is the internal appearance, internal reasons for his appearance. 3 external, 3 internal. So this is what is going to follow. So it's not over yet. We've got 2 chapters of such out of the world theology, philosophy. I mean, it's super deep, super sweet what's coming. Till now, this was a very difficult chapter because there's a lot of technical details, but you have patiently, as he said, sailed through. We are now at the end of this chapter, right? And he says that just to enunciate the glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I have tried to describe the glories of Sri Krishna in detail. Okay, what's he done? He has described the glories of Krishna in detail so that we can understand the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says, Chaitanya Prabhura Mahima Kohi Bare Tare, Krishnera Mahima Kohe Koriya Vistare. And then he says, Chaitanya Gosaira Ei Tattva Nirupam Swayam Bhagavan Krishna Vrajendra Nandan. The conclusion is that Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the son of the King of Vraj. And he ends by praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath Goswami, always desiring their mercy. Just like he ends every chapter. Every chapter ends with this verse. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Pade Jara Asha Caitanya Caritamrita Kahe Krishna dāsā. So thank you all very much for hearing patiently and enthusiastically, and we have completed or just started to or beginning to understand the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, were non-different. Okay. So is this all too confusing? Sometimes I wonder, like, I don't know what else I can do to simplify this. Huh? Is this format okay?
Yes, sir.
I don't know, be honest.